Now you are welcome to this aspect. Let's study something very important in this video. We want to study the effect of impurity on melting and boiling points. Now look at the first point here. Impurities causes elevation of boiling point. What does that mean? It means that what? Impurity causes boiling point to increase. Let's take for example, everybody knows that what the boiling point of pure water is 100 degrees Celsius. The moment you add impurity to it, it will boil at a temperature greater than 100 degrees Celsius. What does that mean? The addition of that impurity has causes elevation in the boiling point. That is, the boiling point has increased altogether. Or you can see what is there. They say widen boiling range. That will tell us that whenever we have impurity in a substance, you see, the boiling point will not be definite again. Remember our characteristic of pure substances that they have definite boiling point. But the moment you add impurity, it will widen the boiling range. That is, instead of water to boil at 100 degrees Celsius at this definite temperature, it will now boil over a range of temperature, and that is making it what? Impure. So that is the effect of impurity on boiling point. So to cause the boiling point to increase or widen the range. So instead of it to boil at a definite temperature of 100 degrees Celsius, it will now boil over a range of temperature. What do I mean by over a range of temperature? Like this, for example, it can boil between, let me say 101 degrees Celsius to, let me say, 110 degrees Celsius. Aha. So it will not have a fixed temperature, it will not have a fixed boiling point, it will not have range of boiling points. So that is it. Good. And also, why is the boiling point increasing? That is the question. Impurity causes boiling point to increase, but why? Pay attention. Let me say I have water now. I have water and I added garri to it, and the garri I'm adding is little, so little amount of garri. Yeah, so this is the what? This is serving as the impurity now. Good. Now, why will the boiling point increase? Remember, the water we need, you know that we will need more heat to break the molecule of this garri again. That is, remember, water 100 degrees Celsius already. Remember that you now have another substance inside it again. So we will need more heat to break the molecule of that substance, and that will make the water boil above the normal boiling point, and that's that. Next, we have what? Impurity causes depression of melting point. What does that mean? It means that, pay attention. We all know that the melting point of ice is what? 0 degrees Celsius. And when you add impurity, it will melt at a temperature lower than this. It can melt at, for example, it can melt at what? -7 degrees Celsius. That is, before it gets to 0, it will have melted. That is the effect. And let me give you an example. Let me just give you more real life scenario. You see, if you want to make ice melt faster, add impurity to it. For example, add salt. That's why you see that to melt ice, we normally add salt to ice. Why is it like that? The salt you are adding to ice is serving as an impurity. It will make it quickly melt at a temperature lower than the normal what? Melting point. That is, to melt ice, you add impurity so that what? It will melt faster. That is it. That is, the melting point will become lower, then it will quickly melt faster. That is it. That is it. So that is that for that. So impurity causes elevation of boiling point, and it causes what? Depression of melting point. Are we together? Hope that is clear. Good. So thanks for watching. Alright, so you are welcome to this aspect. We want to learn the criteria for purity. Now, what is the criteria for purity when we are talking about liquids? When we are talking about liquids. Now, for liquids, pay attention. For liquids, the criteria for purity, that is, what is the standard for us to know that this liquid is pure? That's what I mean by the word criteria for purity. Now, what is the criteria for purity when we are talking about liquid? It is the what? The boiling point. It is the what? The boiling point. That is, pure liquids. That is, pure liquids have sharp boiling point. Don't forget that point, please. Pure liquid have a sharp boiling point. Good. Or you say narrow boiling range. Or you say what? Narrow boiling what? Narrow boiling range. Exactly. That is, if a pure liquid can have a sharp boiling point, for example, if the boiling point of water is exactly 100 degrees Celsius, wow, the water is what? It is very pure because it's having a sharp, a definite boiling point. Or even if we have a boiling range, the range will be very narrow, that is, it will be very small. For example, let me say water is boiling at these temperatures from 100 degrees Celsius to like 101 degrees Celsius. You can see the difference between them is just 1 degree Celsius. That's very small. Are you there? Good. So it should be at least, let me say the range should be at least no more than 2. Are you there? It should be like less than or equal to 2, like less than 2, yeah. For example, like 0.5 and so on like that. Good. So we have narrow boiling range. So if you have what, a sharp boiling point, narrow boiling range, that shows that what, the liquid is what, is pure. So you can jot down this point. Now, what is the criteria for purity when we are talking about what, solids? It is the what, melting point. It is the what, it is the melting point. Are we there? Remember, if we are talking about melting point, same goes to freezing point. Are you there? Good. So what do we say? We say pure solids have sharp, I'll use this shortcut for melting point. Good. Sharp melting point. Are you there? Sharp melting point or narrow melting range. Or narrow melting range. Exactly. That is, the melting point will be sharp. You have a definite melting point or what, narrow melting range. For example, the melting point of ice is 0 degree Celsius. Exactly. Or if you have a melting range, it will be very, very small. Like very, very small amount of range will be between what, will be between the 2 points. And let's go. I want us to take note of something. I want us to take note of something here. Now, take note of this, that whenever impurity is added to liquid, remember the boiling point will increase. And whenever impurity is added to solid, the melting point will decrease. Then that will make us remember this mnemonic, which goes thus: every boys, every boy drinks milk. This will explain that elevation of boiling point, depression of melting point. That is, when you add impurity, elevation of boiling point, which means boiling point will increase, depression of melting point, which means what, melting point will decrease. So that's that about that on the criteria for purity.